February, focusing on strong women and Kari Carter. This is My $1 Million Life. Hi, welcome to My $1 Million Life. I'm LJ Jellison. So today we are sitting with Kari Carter, who we just recently, we're actually on your set of the K Carter show, which just launched yesterday.
Lots of good things. I can't believe we focus on small business, and I'm also trying to sell myself a little bit in the business that I'm currently in, and it was huge for both yesterday, beyond everything I could imagine. It was
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, super
We'll
exciting.
talk more about that. But so February, I wanted to jump in and cover the lives of some strong women that surround me. My wife and I have had a lot of conversations recently about what's going on in her head, which has sparked a big interest from me. Mm-hmm. So I met Kari Carter through a dance dad.
Yes.
Yes.
My husband.
Your husband. And he had mentioned that you were into acting. Yeah. You lived in California, you moved back in rural Ohio. Well, I guess Troy's not rural, but it's pretty close.
It kind of is for me.
Yeah. And so we started talking about doing some commercials together. We did. We shot a pilot for a TV show that was conceived by you and John.
Super fun.
Haven't done anything with that yet, but it was a great adventure shooting it.
It was.
And then we started talking about the K Carter show. Which has fully developed, but we'll get into the artistic endeavors. But tell me how you're born and raised in Troy.
I was born and raised in Ohio, not in Troy, but in Ohio. Okay. Went to college in Ohio, and then got married, and I had 2 boys in Ohio. And then when they were babies, my husband's job took us out to Southern Cal, and I was scared to go. I had only known Ohio. I really didn't travel a ton. But it took us out to LA, and I loved it. It was like, that's where I was meant to be. I couldn't believe. We landed, and I was like, I'm home. Like, this is it. Oh my gosh. So I immediately, where we lived is where a lot of the stars live, and a lot of they went to our church, and I just had an easy in. I was an actor, so I just got plugged in, and I was doing movies and billboards and magazine shoots and all of this stuff. I was really in. Yeah, and then divorce happened and life just changed.
So you're out there living successfully.
Yeah.
Where does the path start to turn in the wrong direction?
So it was, my ex-husband and I are actually still really good friends, and it's just a huge blessing that's not every case in divorce.
Right.
Obviously, it's the
especially with kids.
Especially with kids. And so we both agreed. We didn't even see an attorney. It was just like, this is where it's going. I think this is best for us, and where do we go from here and make it okay for our kids and for ourselves. Well, I was a teacher by trade. I went to college. I got my degree in education. I taught for years before I had my 2 boys, but then I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. I let my license lapse. I didn't think I'd ever go back to education. So I thought, what do I do? I can't. LA is not the cheapest place to live. I was getting gigs, but that's not a salary, and I've got 2 babies. What do I do? Terrified. I was literally terrified. So going through the divorce process is not easy, even in a good situation. It's like a death. So I started losing weight. I was down to 112 pounds. My doctor was like, if you don't do something, you're gonna be sick. You're gonna have a lot more problems. So it was like the stress. I've never dealt with anything like this. I have 2 babies that are relying on me. What do? I have to go back to Ohio. That's where I got my degree. That's where I have my licensure is in Ohio. So my ex and I agreed that it was okay to go back to Ohio. He was still working in LA, but he had the type of job that he was able to come back and forth to Ohio every month. Right. Bless his heart. So no job, no money, 2 babies. Traveled cross country back home with no idea what I was going to do. I literally to this day don't really know how I did it, but I did it because you know what? I have these 2 babies that are looking at me like, what are we gonna do? And there is nobody else to help me. I have to do this.
How old were the boys when you moved back?
Camden wasn't even in kindergarten yet. So Colin was starting 3rd grade. Camden was not quite, he was in preschool. So it's like, what do? Yeah. You figure it out. You get up every day and you figure it out. And it was hard to do, but those kids are the ones that got me out of bed. And I did it. And I found a place, and I found a substitute teaching job. I had to go back to school and get my licensure renewed. Hard, so I'm raising 2 babies by myself while I'm substitute teaching, no insurance, and I'm trying to get my degree back.
Right.
And I did it.
And anybody who's gone back to school, I've tried to go back to school a couple times, and it is not the easiest thing.
It's not easy, and it's not what I wanted to do. I was doing my passion is acting.
Right.
I get up for acting, like I never feel more alive than if I'm in front of a camera or if I'm on a stage. That's where I come alive. And I didn't want to go back to school. I don't want to teach anymore. I don't want to do it. But real life sucks. And you have to adult, and it's hard, and you get up and you put your big girl panties on and you figure out what you have to do because you have to do it.
Right.
You have to do it. So I did, and I missed the warm weather. I missed the eclectic area of California. I missed the culture, and here I am in farm country trying to get a degree while I'm feeding these kids, and it was one day at a time.
Now, when you came back and you were teaching, you actually worked at a boys' school.
I did. So once I finished subbing and I got my degree back, I was able to get myself a full-time gig, insurance, and then this gig came to me. They said, "You're so good with kids. There is a job at a boys' jail. We think you'd be great for that." And I was like, well, I never saw that coming. And so I took it. And I've got to tell you, of all of the years of teaching, I did 14 years of teaching. That was by far my favorite teaching gig. Wow. Amazing kids, and just people give them a bad rap, but they are good kids. They just need someone to love them and guide them in the right way.
A rewarding, truly
super
rewarding.
Yeah. Several of the boys who got out, finally and would message me on Facebook, and they're like, you were the bright to our day. You were the mom we never had, and we still talk like you. Awesome. And I'm like, well,
So from there, where did you go? How did you get into Younique?
Okay, so
Younique is the makeup brand that you...
Right, I sell the brand Younique, yeah. And I didn't see this coming at all. But teaching was great, I loved it. And then the contract, I was working through a company where I was contracted out to the jail. Mm-hmm. The contract changed. I needed a specialty that I didn't have, so I lost that job. For no fault of anybody's, it was just a contract thing. So I was like, what am I gonna do? Well, at this point, luckily I had remarried John, and he was like, you don't have to work if you don't want to, but I'm a strong woman, I'm independent, I don't like feeling like I need somebody, so I was like, well, I need to do something. Right. So I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, and then this opportunity, somebody asked me if I wanted to try this mascara. So I did, and there was this great deal going on if you buy the kit, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll buy the kit, because I really like the makeup, but I'm not gonna sell it. I'm not selling it, nope, I'm not a salesperson. And then within like a week, I had 5 people on my team just from talking about it on Facebook. And it was like, maybe I could do this? So I had no clue about marketing. I have never been trained in marketing, no idea what I was doing. So personal development, I started reading and following people who do this for a living. Ray Higdon was one of them. There's several people that I follow that this is what they do and they train. So I just became a student of the industry. And it has grown. I've got 1,000 girls on my team. I'm one step from the top of the company, and I do makeup.
Good for you.
Yeah, so.
That's a big change.
It's a huge change. It's a huge change.
I always love talking to people who are like, I don't see myself doing that, or I can't do that. Mm-hmm. And it just boggles my mind, because any person who takes a look back at their life, right, you cannot forecast, unless you've played things completely safe, and even then it doesn't work out the way you want it to. Right. You cannot forecast the way your life goes. No. So to sit there and say that you can't do something or you're not capable is completely ridiculous when you think about just from a logical standpoint. Yeah. Okay, well, how did you get from here to here? I don't really know. How did you get here? I don't know. But you're telling me that you can't get to the next step because you know better?
Hindsight is wonderful, and you wish you could have hindsight when you're going through what it is you're going through, or you can have the God's view that he can see everything where it's going to be, but you can't. And so it's just, that's where the trust comes in. It's like, okay, take the next step, one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then from Younique, our paths cross, and
Yeah.
you start getting into some acting. Now, I don't know how many of you have a truly driven human being in your life, but this woman is truly driven. So from the moment we met, we started doing commercials, and she starts figuring out what it is that I do here at NKT Productions and what NKT Productions has to offer. Yep. And the text messages just start rolling in. Yeah. And it's an ongoing joke.
Totally guilty.
Because
I bug him to death.
Kari hates to type, so it's all voice text. And they come in like one after another. John jokes because he's like, sometimes you go on a roll and he just lets it go until it's all done and you get it all off.
Right, he's good.
But it's all stemmed from this drive you have, where you see something, you want something, and you take it. Yeah, absolutely. So Kari Carter now live on its feet, and that is taking your Younique business, which you were doing weekly Facebook shows, and we talked about blowing it up, or you're wanting to blow it up, and we luckily have a great facility here. We have all the things in place that we needed to do it, and this conversation carries on, and John is involved, and Erin's involved, my wife Erin, and you and Erin strike it off, and hit it off right off the bat.
She's the second me, and she's extremely passionate. She knew exactly what she was going to do. We hit it off like this, and it's just been like seamless.
At that point in time, I was.
You're like, have at it,
you
girls.
guys, this is completely taken care of. You guys are on your way.
And we did it, doggone.
Absolutely, it was fantastic. So, what would your advice be to, and this is, this series that we're doing, a majority of the women that I'm going to be interviewing are moms. The kids are in school, which leaves you back, as you, which for a lot of women is a hard transition. So talk to me about being a mom, kids in school, and regaining yourself. How do you get up every day and become Kari again?
So there are days where it's easier, there are days where it's harder. To separate yourself as a mom and yourself as a woman, because they are just so combined. My boys are both teenagers. One is about 18 and ready to fly the nest already. And so you're so focused in making sure they're successful people that you forget to be successful yourself. And because my passion is so strong for acting and doing what I love to do, I can't let that go. I can't. So I've had to learn to make myself a priority. And I have to remind myself that just because I'm making myself a priority does not mean I am not making them a priority. And moms everywhere, I know that they feel this. They're like, if I do this for myself, then I'm not being the mom I need to be. And that's not a good way to think. It isn't. Your kids are gonna leave, and where are you gonna be if you haven't worked all of those years a little for yourself too?
Right.
And honestly, if you're not making yourself the best woman you can be, then you're not being the mom that you could be. Your kids are watching. They watch you. My oldest son just told me, I don't know really what I want to do for college or after I graduate. And he's like, but I see you and Dad, and you guys are both hard workers. I didn't ask him to say that. Thank you, Colin. I love you to death. I'm glad you see that. But he sees it. Right. We work hard for what we want, and he knows I love him, but I've got to do something for me, too.
I think I've been talking to Erin a little bit about this as she goes along her path, because Cruz is just getting ready to launch and leave the nest. This is his last year at home. And she's in that place where she's like, no. And at the same time she's like, okay, I gotta pull it all back in, and what do I do now? And Erin will be joining us in a later episode to talk more about that. But I think it's truly, and from what I'm getting from the women around me, is this it's a legit fear that most women
we're the hardest on ourselves. Women across the board are the hardest on ourselves. So I have all of this success in my background. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I got a black belt when I was in my 30s. I mean, someone challenged me. That's how I got it, actually. So that's just how I roll. But
I'll show you.
Yeah, that's right. They're like, oh, you could never do that. Really? The next day I signed up, and 3 years later I had my black belt. Bring it. So we are the hardest on ourselves. I can see all of this success in my background, but there are still days where I'm like, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. Right. And I fail to see that past of the good that I've done and the success that I've had.
You talk to anybody who is into spiritual belief or self-development, they say looking back is never really a good idea.
Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of truth to it when I'm talking to a woman like yourself, in that if you don't look back and evaluate your achievements, you forget, because your mom and your daughter and your husband or wife, you forget that you back there achieved something. That was a win. That was a goal. That made me who I am today. And you kind of forget those.
I don't agree with not looking back. I think it's look back and don't live there, don't park there, but look back and see, like when I got divorced and I was so stressed, I didn't know how I was going to get up. But if I can look back and I'm like, I did it though. I did it. I got up and look what I did. I had a house and I didn't have any debt and I had a car and my kids were clothed well. I did that. I did that myself. You've got to look back and you've got to see the good that you've done, the success that you've had, and that's going to get you to the next day.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I teach or talk to people about is if you don't think you're of value, if you don't think you're the best, if you don't think you're worthy, then nobody is.
Right.
You are where it starts. It starts right there with you. And you can take women of all shapes and sizes, and there are those moments, whether it comes down because of a mother-daughter relationship. I've encountered that so many times, where 30-something, 40-something-year-old women have a relationship and a dynamic with their mother that just completely disables them. Yeah. And you have to be able to start with you. Yeah. And then that circle then radiates out on who you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. Are you a believer that you're either on my team or you're not? How do you surround yourself with like-kind people?
So it's so vital, because as women, and as strong as I am and as strong as I want to think that I am, it's still that inner voice where you're like, you're not good enough. You're certainly not pretty enough. You look at everybody else's Facebook pages, their highlight reels, and you're like looking at yourself where you're like, well, I haven't changed out of my pajama pants in 2 days and I've got coffee stains, so I can't measure up to that. You've got to, in my opinion, you've got to find those core people. And in my life, I have two. They've seen you at your worst, but they know your value. They tell you your value, and they pull you back up. They get on the floor with you for a little bit, but they don't let you stay there. They pull you back up, and they keep telling you what you're worth and your value, and look at what you've done. You get up. They don't baby you. Get up and you can do this. And I've got those two people, and they are so valuable to me. Because on those days where I feel like I'm a hot mess and I can never do this, they tell me otherwise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Kari Carter, from this point forward, goals, ambitions. Real quick wrap up.
Okay, real quick. So the Kari Carter, the K Carter Show is my new baby, my new passion. You are throwing me into a new world that I know nothing about. And I literally had like night sweats last night thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But my personality is, you're challenging me, bring it. I'll figure it out, I'll read, I'll call, I'll do what I can, but I will make it happen. I've done it in the past, I'm gonna do it now, and it's my passion, I'm gonna do it, and watch out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with K Carter or Kari Carter, you can find her at Facebook.
Just look me up, Kari Carter. Yeah. You'll find me.
Facebook.com/KariBC.
Yeah. Is my maiden name, Karis. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty honored that I got this spot.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions or you want any advice, you want to quiz her on anything in her life of what she's overcome, you can find her on Facebook. She is one of the most active people I know on that platform. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Tune in next week for our next guest on My $1 Million Life.